face of enormous challenges this year, one of the things that I was most proud to see, was how we came together more than ever before. You had stronger and bigger fly-ins in Washington, D.C., stronger political fundraisers, and stronger grassroots advocacy. This demonstrated to everyone a truly unified industry voice. This morning, I'm proud to share the stage with three leaders who are a big part of those efforts. These are three CEOs who have built three very different business models. And despite the extraordinary cycles of uncertainty and multi-layered challenges in the industry, all three of them have not only survived, but have thrived. So we're going to have a conversation this morning about their experiences, their businesses, and their thoughts on leadership and the future. Our first panelist is Dan Oh, President and CEO of REG. Dan has more than 25 years' experience in senior leadership for major organizations, including having served as chairman of the Iowa Biodiesel Board. Please welcome Dan Oh. Our next panelist, Gene Gabolis, is the founder and president of World Energy. Since 1996, he's also been contributing his leadership to NBB, having served on the governing board and as chair of the regulatory committee. Please welcome Gene Gabolis. Our third panelist, Paul Sohn, serves as the Chief Executive Officer and President of Renewable Biofuels, Inc., which is the largest biodiesel production facility in North America, certainly one of the largest in the world, with a total refining capacity of 180 million gallons per year. Prior to founding RBF in 2008, Mr. Sohn was formerly a founding partner and president in North Star Natural Gas, Inc., and a founding partner of Organic Fuels. Please welcome Paul Sohn. Well, guys, did I get you stirred up this morning at all?
Yeah, that was great.
I'm fired up, man. That was a good talk. You running for office?
Oh, no. Well, welcome. We're really glad to hear from you today. We kind of thought that, we've talked about how this conference is really a place that a lot of business is done in the biodiesel industry. You walk down the halls of the hotel and the convention center, and you see, little huddled meetings going on. And I don't know about you guys, but I often wonder, what are those guys talking about? It might be interesting to kind of get a glimpse of some of those high-level industry conversations. So I think it might be kind of cool for the attendees to get a glimpse this morning of some high-level industry insights. And you guys, all three of you, are from different areas of the country, very different business models. But the thing that you have in common is that you have built and achieved a successful biodiesel industry career in the face of such wild uncertainty and ups and downs. So Gene, let's start off with you. One thing that you might not know about Gene is that he's a Midwest boy. He has such an East Coast attitude. You wouldn't know that, but
He's a Buckeye now.
But once you get to know him, you realize he's a good old Midwestern boy. But Gene, give us some thoughts on what you see in the industry going on right now.
Well, as you were talking, it was striking how similar what we're doing as an industry is to what our businesses are faced with. So, three of us will be talking with lots of other folks, and we're talking about exactly what you were talking about. How do we collaborate to find efficiencies? How do we adjust to realities as they come out? So every year we come here together. Every year we're facing obstacles. Every year we have to figure out a way to get the other side. Happy to say, though, most of us, year after year, find a way to get through it. And this is not an industry that's easy to operate a business in, but that's what frankly makes it interesting. And 2014 was another year that we struggled all year to figure out a way to make things work. And in the end, I think we're an industry that produced 1.7 billion gallons. We're an industry in which, companies made money, and we're stronger for it. But it certainly was a struggle.
Yeah. Well, Dan, REG certainly is unmatched in terms of the uniqueness of your business model. You have a very interesting background, having graduated from West Point, served in the military, and had that training in terms of management style. You've been in the private sector a long time and built a very impressive business within this field. So share with us your thoughts on what's going on right now.
Well, thanks, and it's a company, the team that's built it together. I get the privilege to help lead it. We're seeing cycles of volatility, and one of the really great things about working in our industry is you never have the same day. Almost every quarter, every 6 months, it seems like we're going through a different cycle, and we end up drawing on lessons from the past, trying to look for patterns and figuring out whether they're going to repeat, and we try to maintain a lot of options and optionalities, but at a certain point, you just got to make a choice, commit for the year, and make a decision moving ahead. But I echo Gene's point. We, as an industry, continue to figure it out year in, year out. We've been reliable. We've delivered collectively the volumes in excess of what we were asked to do. And quality is growing. Quality is great right now, but quality on compliance and on fuel is growing. And if we stay focused on customers and investors, we'll answer the questions we've got to answer.
Yeah. So, Paul, you also have some commonalities, but also very different background and experience. Born on another continent, on the opposite side of the globe, and worked in the oil and gas industry before making your nonlinear way into the biodiesel space, but certainly having one of the largest biodiesel plants in the world gives you some pretty unique insight. So maybe you could share some things with us now.
From our perspective, 2015 looks like 2014, which looks like 2013, looks like 2012. And if you look at this industry, there's some predictable patterns in terms of demand, cycles, liquidity, and January and February of this year are no different to January and February of the prior years. There's more uncertainty on the regulatory side, which is destabilizing, to say the least. But we're very bullish about how 2015 is going to finish, and we think it's going to be a strong year for the industry and a strong year for our organization.
I'd be interested to hear, have you ever had, I'm sure the answer is probably yes, but have you ever had your business come to the absolute brink or breaking point?
Which week?
Never.
And if so, tell us that story and what you did about it. Gene, let's start with you.
Yeah, who wants to go first on that one?
Only about 100 times, yeah. Dan and I were talking yesterday, and
You're Dan.
yeah, while I got into the biodiesel business in 1996, believe it or not. So there isn't a biodiesel business. There's about 10 different biodiesel businesses, and any one of our companies has been very different things over the years. And the RFS didn't even exist until a couple of years ago, and now it's the fundamental framework for the business. So, yeah, there have been various times. The business was all about trade. 2008, the Europeans threw up trade barriers. Most of us were positioned to move large volumes of product. It was a immediate change in the framework of what this was going to all be about. We could see the RFS on the forefront, but it wasn't there yet. So we went from this situation of a trade-based business, an industry that was based around trade, a company that was based around trade, and we had to reinvent ourselves. We had to go back and say, okay, well, that was then. What are we going to be next? Faced with it was very, very difficult. We had barges and tanks all over the place and rail cars and so forth. And in 2009, that's not what the market wanted. So, you know, we have learned, I have personally learned, and our business has learned much more from our failures than we've ever learned from our successes. And, you know, that failure was about not seeing enough steps ahead. And so, you know, we constantly fixate on what comes next. And that fixation comes out of those near misses, like the 2008 near miss.
Dan, by the way, I didn't mean to take your water away, but I didn't want you to drink after me. I have a cold. I woke up this morning sounding like Elmer Fudd.
Well, I appreciate that because we got to pay our dues, so we're got to keep working.
So do you have a story that might have some insights about how you faced a major crisis and what your team did about it?
Yeah. Well, it seems like every other year we go through some kind of cycle. But I mean, I'll point back at the same time because when we went through the 2008 to 2010 timeframe, we had to change business models, and we started out as a company that built great plants for other teams and other companies and helped them operate. We didn't have very much operating capacity. We had a very thin balance sheet. In retrospect, we thought it was okay at the time, but it was very thin. And we ended up with a market kind of like it feels like today where you couldn't make money easily. I mean, just not sure where or how, too many obligations, and not a clear path forward on a regulatory basis. So the funny thing is as crazy as RFS2 is now, it's better than it used to be. and it's hard to remember that sometimes. But we as a company that effectively had one plant and one that we were trying to get involved with, we're a small producer. So we had to look around. We found companies that wanted to do business with us. We had worked hard to try and be a good player in our value chain, so it felt like companies picked us to continue. People who bought from us, people who supplied us, and worked really hard and well together with other folks, shared some rewards, shared some risk, and worked our way through it with, quite frankly, a lot of cooperation and partnership from other companies. I think other companies have that same opportunity today. We're all generally better off. We all make better product. We've got customers who understand what we do. We have suppliers that need us. So that's a whole lot better than it used to be. But it can feel very similar. But we can go through that cycle again and be all right. But back then, it was all hands. We took pay cuts. We didn't know where some of this. I mean, I can remember not knowing where we're going to write checks from a couple months in the future. Never said it out loud, but I can remember that. That's a terrible place to be. Don't ever want to go there again.
Yeah, that's a great reminder that as bad as it is now, it has been worse. I mean, there were times in this industry where nobody was making money, where there were no volumes. That it was a wreck.
If you're in this room, you're a survivor, by definition.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's true. So, Paul, what can you share with us about learning from some glorious failures or crisis?
So, you know, my lasting impression of this business is every day is a challenge and every day is different. My first company came on in 2005, no RFS. Bean oil was 14 cents a pound, and margins were very attractive, you know, without anything. And then we built our Port Neches plant to come online in 2008. At the end of the year, European sanctions came in, financial crisis, liquidity went out of the market because the banks went away, and we were stuck with a massive plant, no working capital, but worse than that, no demand in the market. And, you know, you've got to just adjust your business model and move with it. And it's an organic business, and I think you have to have organic business models. So we started tolling in the front years, 8 through 2011. We're lucky enough to partner with some very good mid-market participants. But as the business has evolved and as we've evolved, we try to get closer to the customer and try to provide the customer with a total solution, and which has led us to be more merchant and evolve from tolling to merchant to direct customer services. And to do that, we had to build up our balance sheet. We had to get our debt off our balance sheet. And I think those are things you've got to do today to be successful. This is not an industry that supports debt, long-term debt at least. And you've got to have a huge amount of working capital to run your business profitably and sensibly.
You know, while I've got you guys up here, I'd like to ask you some questions just about leadership in general, and about just how to run how to first build a quality organization and then run a quality organization and management style, leadership style. You know, I think one of the examples of leadership that pop culture has is Donald Trump with The Apprentice, and I'm very underwhelmed with that whole notion, because it puts it out there that to be a good leader, to make a profitable company, you have to, you know, gleefully fire people, and you have to be, you know, kind of a a-hole and in general, and you know, kind of inspire people to undermine each other on their teams and take credit for things. And I just believe that is the opposite of a successful business model. But I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Dan, let's start with you. You've certainly built a very impressive business and lead an impressive team. So, and I'm also interested, how did your military training lend itself to that, and did it help that? Certainly it instructed that, but did you ever find any areas that it hindered that? You even had to maybe overcome that in the private sector.
Yeah. Well, there are many parallels between being in a hardcore capitalist business and being in a governmental organization like the military and being in an association that you've got to bring into the kind of companies we're all in. I think fundamentally, it's a different kind of person who wants to be involved in our industry. And on the one hand, you've got to find folks that are okay being in a 12-month business scenario where they don't necessarily know what's going to happen in 12 months. So there's a personal risk profile that is quite discomforting to folks in it, but as you build capabilities and you build skills, people can rely upon each other and do more. You've got to have folks that fundamentally know that if you don't get a return for your investors, you aren't going to be there, because you're not going to be able to have access to money. And if you don't hold your customers in the highest esteem and have great quality, you can't get what you need to get done. But at the same time, you know, I think we can all claim a little bit of higher calling to what we're doing. You know, we're supporting food security and energy security and agriculture and emissions and lower carbon products. It sounds a little cheesy, but there's something for everybody. So when you find people that are like that, and then you can blend the skills together with the right tone and the right opportunity, you can build a great team, and they'll be really cohesive and really sticky. And a little bit of adversity is a great way to pull people together. I mean, it's an opportunity when you're going through tough times, as long as you're not too big, don't have too many people, have enough money, to really pull together. And I think we've used those opportunities well.
That's good.
Yeah, I'd just play right off of what Dan was saying. You know, this is such an interesting business to be in, right? Because you're not just building businesses, you're building an industry. And we've been doing that for a long time. Making up a new fuel source. I mean, show me another new fuel source that's coming into the world in the last 100 years. You know, this is just a real, you know, we're just lucky to be able to do this stuff. And if we have had any success in it, it's because, you know, somebody's got to sign the checks, but these are team efforts. There's no way, I certainly, personally, cannot possibly show up unless I've got people just as committed to success as I do. And it's always been part of how I've worked, just feeding off of the energy of the people that work with me. And we get to much more interesting solutions collectively than certainly anything I would get to. The only thing I bring to the endeavor is that I'm all in.
Yeah. Yep. Paul?
You know, I mean, we have a great asset from a mechanical perspective, a location perspective, but our biggest asset is our people. And I agree with Dan, it's very hard to recruit people into this industry given the uncertainty in terms of forward outlook. We've been lucky that, you know, in Houston there's lots of retired oil people that have, you know, left their primary job at age 60 and want something to do. And we've been able to bring in some really talented people to improve our organization and our professionalism. And, you know, thank God for them because they know what they're doing and they get stuff done right. And, you know, I think the role of a manager is to get out of the way and let your people do what they know they need to do and hire people that are very competent in their areas of expertise. And we've been lucky enough to attract good people, and it's helped us substantially.
You know, I'm around a lot of CEOs who echo what I think is just a false premise, which is, oh, you never want to be friends with your employees. Never want to do that because you might have to fire them someday. And I couldn't disagree more. I am very close friends with every single staff person, most of the contractors. There's a genuine level of sincerity, respect, trust, and genuine affection. And you know, the trade-off is sometimes you got to fire a friend, but you just got to man up and do it.
Yeah, there's a difference between being a manager and being a leader, right? A manager might not want to be friends with people they might have to fire, but that's not leadership. That's management.
You don't hire people to fire them, right? You hire them to grow your business, and you give them scope, and you let them do what they need to do. It's very rare you have to fire somebody.
Yeah.
In my experience.
It's a failure on your part as much as it's a failure on them if you end up having to fire somebody, and it hurts. But sometimes you do have to weed the garden in a exceptional organization. Well, we're getting close to time. I wanted to ask you guys one final question. When I was going through my performance review this last year, they asked me, you know, Joe, why do you still want to do this job? And I said, because we're changing the world. I mean, where else can you go to do that? I'm not going to do that with the Pipe Pan Manufacturers Association. But I'm interested to hear from you guys. Do you guys, you still having fun? You still love it? Or has it just become a real chore?
I mean, for me, it's fun. I don't know many other industries where you can come to work in the morning and have an idea of what you want to do and spend the day doing something altogether different. And in biodiesel, I mean, that's just the way it goes. And it's fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun trying to manage through some of these difficult times. And when it all works out, like on December 17th, it's a great day. But it's fun. I mean, it's a fun business.
Dan?
Yeah, I love what I do. And it starts with the people in the company. It's a great team. We really like taking care of our investors and having a good return. And at the same time, our industry presents, you know, things that are hard to do, that most people can't get done, that if you do really matters. And if you can be in a place where you can do that, get a good return, take care of your families, and feel good about what you do, and that's great. I've been a lot of places, but this is, I think, where that stands out. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, watching what Dan's done at REG and what Dan's team has done at REG, it's really cool what you've done there. You know, taking a bunch of small, struggling operations and making it into one successful, bigger operation. And that's a very creative endeavor. It takes, anybody can see it. It takes special people to execute it. That is really, really cool. What Paul's done at RBF, moving from a tolling model to a merchant model, getting exposure to the tax credit, having that come through, that takes courage. You got to go out and you got to get the financial backing to do that, and you've got to, you know, there's some sleepless nights along the way, right? And so learning from guys like Dan and Paul and seeing how they're playing things out, hopefully every once in a while we do something that's interesting. You know, we all watch each other. We're all sort of seeing it. And what comes next in this is going to be really interesting. I thought your Back to the Future reference was really, really a good one, because we're right on the cusp now of this industry really starting to find efficiencies and find ways to aggregate into really good, strong companies. And it's going to be a lot of folks that have started individual businesses that start to come together in bigger businesses. And we're right there right now. I think, you know, probably more so than anybody on the planet, REG has sort of paved the way for that. But there will be others. And you know, these are going to be multi-plant operations. These are going to be big, strong operations, probably getting farther down into the petroleum industry. So I think it's just a terrific time to be in the space. I think it's always been a terrific time to be in the space. But yeah, man, if you're not having fun doing this, I don't know, what would you rather be doing? This is good stuff.
Yeah. Well, you answered my last question, so I'll ask these guys too. I mean, let's talk about Back to the Future. Paul, where do you see, what's your vision of this industry? Let's say we have this, let's make a date to have this panel 7 years from now, and what would we be talking about?
I mean, I think we see continued growth in production and continued acceptance of biofuels into the mainstream as a fuel source. We see quality issues becoming more and more important and becoming a bigger differentiator on a go-forward basis. And we think, you know, producers that can provide customers with a total solution beyond just biofuels will do very, very well in the business. But, you know, we're very bullish the industry and very bullish what biodiesel and biofuels can do, and we think they're a permanent fixture in the fuel mix in this country and the globe, to be frank.
Dan, you got the last word. 7 years from now, we're back up on this stage. What are we talking about?
Yeah, I think, agree with Paul and Gene. We're going to be de facto mainstream fuel. It's going to be there, going to be part of the system, will be ubiquitous in the country, and you'll just assume that you've got great diesel fuel and it requires biomass-based diesel to be in there. Then I think as we look at co-products and value chain and other carbon sources and other things, we'll see plants doing more than one thing, getting into other products like chemicals and lubricants and oils, just like happen in a petrochemical or oleochemical facility. So it'll just be a natural extension.
All right, let's make it a date 7 years from now. We'll
Okay.
get back up here. Gentlemen, it's been a great panel. Very much appreciate your insights and your leadership. Thank you so much.
Thank you.